911 has three completely different meanings depending on how you pronounce it. 9111. 911. 91-1 could mean something someday. 911 was a national tragedy. Norm Macdonald. 921. Porsche 911. Rescue. No, the other one. 911 emergency point. 911 Porsche. 911 Twin Towers. 911 an integer. 91.1 FM radio station. X200B.5? I'm sure there are more. If you include where I'm from, it's 9th November too. This post reminds me of that tragedy. Does it? I would only ever pronounce it 9/11 myself. Lol. Butter's birthday is 9/11. 9/11 was a huge date in history, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and for one of those meanings, it's 119 for the rest of the world. A poor farmer has two sons, a smart one and a dumb one. I always enjoyed saying this punchline fast to friends when I would tell the joke in the 80s. How about $15 for a truck fuck duck? Wow, I haven't heard this job since 1987. Nice, I enjoy reading it. Take my vote. Sex with stupid people is so much fun. Thus proved. This joke was said in the shorts at the end of The Other Guys movie. There are actually two versions of the movie, one where Wahlberg says this joke and another lame version where he says a lot more PC joke. My favorite joke. First time I heard my dad curse when he was telling my brother-in-law this joke. It was 1995. A truly magical year. At the sister-in-laws for Christmas lunch and sequel to Ultraviolet. They're not on the same wavelength as you. It must have been an illuminating conversation. Did they stare blankly like deer in the high beams? That really got me hot. Shedding some light on things. Sounds like you need to learn to infrared between the lines. It seems they can't see who too. Making bad dad jokes with alarming frequency. Carefully try to turn up their brightness. Jimmy, what's not? After we watched the series, I told my wife the lead actress wasn't very good looking. Macron sue Macron. That must be infuriating on an unseen spectrum. Only the unenlightened don't appreciate that joke. They didn't get it, and I don't see it either. I love that book, and the joke even more. Don't you realize why they were upset? The book had to have been about UV lights. Or maybe thermal lights like used in thermal vision. I kind of see it. Dogs don't understand that you're driving the car. They think that every once in a while you get into the metal box and it takes you someplace random. That's why I taught my dog to drive. He has a better understanding of the mechanics now. I don't think you are giving dogs enough credit. They are smart. I think dogs realize we are driving, we are controlling it. They know that the car takes them from A to B faster, similarly to a human child's understanding of a car. Once my mom wasn't paying attention at a stoplight and didn't notice it turned green. Our dog noticed the other cars moving, I assume, and nudged. My mom barked at her so she would go. She knew the person was operating the car. Now how would you know what a dog knows? Why does my dog wait until red lights to ask for a pet? They absolutely know enough that when they see you turn the steering wheel they need to lean. And they know when you say hold on you're about to brake. So yeah, they know. Homeless man. I saw a homeless guy by the side of the street asking for $5. I thought to myself, this money is just going to be wasted on booze and drugs. So I gave it to him. I just told this joke to my wife and she was not impressed. Funny, he never said he gave up sex. I don't drink anymore. I drink all the time. Because it's important to stay hydrated. I don't drink anything stronger than pop. But my pop could drink just about anything. I don't eat Thanksgiving leftovers. I quit cold turkey. I have a drug problem. I can't get a hold of any. I'll occasionally aspirate when I'm drinking liquids. What else would you drink? I'm just specifying, not necessarily alcohol, just anything really, and cause myself to cough. Modifying a joke from Airplane. I'll usually comment right after I have a drinking problem. Of course my kid goes to kindergarten and tells the teacher my dad has a drinking problem. I have a drinking problem. Two hands only one mouth. Definition of an alcoholic: someone that drinks more than you do. My brother: had you seen the weather outside? No, frightful. I saw this exact joke but with smoking, smiley face. Magicians are really going to have a large reduction in the amount of tricks they can perform if we ever get a cashless society. So funny story. I'm in India, and in most big cities here, you don't need to carry cash because almost everyone accepts cashless payments or cards. Once, there was this street magician doing some tricks to a group of 5-6 people and he asked for a currency note and no one in the group had any. He ended up taking a note from his own wallet. Lol. Let me show you a magic trick. I sent money to this account. But it got received in this one. Smiley face. If augmented reality becomes a thing, it'll really mess with them. This happened with cigarettes. They used to be a mainstay of magic, just like Cash's. Old man was sitting deep in thought at his 80th birthday party. Grandma was on the porch of her new nursing home waiting for her son to arrive. Every so often she'd start to lean to one side and the nurse would diligently prop her back up. This went on for 20 minutes till her boy finally arrived asking how she was liking the new set. It's okay I guess, but the won't let you fart. Don't get it, Eli 5? This is one of the worst jokes I have ever heard. Could it be? A joke I've never heard? I'm sorry, but how do you bend an erection? Or did I just give away TMI? Hope we never see it again. Actually the one in the comments was worse. People who had one baby and then decided never again. What happened? The pregnancy unleashed triggered some chronic mental health issues for my wife and she was terribly sick for the first 7 months. If we try for another, she'll have yoga off her meds for it and that's a whole another issue. We were good. One healthy baby is to be thankful for. Families are expensive. Didn't get the help I expected from my other half. Plus kids are expensive. I've also been able to stay home for almost 2 years. Wouldn't be able to do that with a second. My sister had an exceptionally difficult pregnancy that nearly killed her. Her doctor told her a second pregnancy would be even riskier. My sister was going to have a second baby, but he passed away while in the womb. And from there she decided never again. And is just raising my nephew. So, who ruined Christmas morning and how did they do it? My mom invited my nephew that molested my daughter and told us we could leave if we couldn't just get over it. It happened 5 months ago and he's still in a court-ordered program for her mind. I ruined her family by turning this more loved grandchild into the police. Grandma forgot where she hid the presents. Haven't found them yet. The drunk asshole that was joyriding last night and totaled my car in a hit and run did a good job of ruining my day. I gave my little girl a drone. It went up in the air the first time and just kept going and going and going. That was like 8 hours ago. Could still be going. Till back in the Middle Ages, indulgences were sold by the Catholic Church to absolve sins or crimes that had been committed or that were to be committed. I'll take 2 homicides and a grand theft carriage, please, Father. It's one of the impetuses for Martin Luther's Reformation. Absolutely no offense intended to op, but did you guys not learn this in high school? It's one of the core impetuses of the Protestant Reformation, which is some of the most important connective tissue in Western history between the historical landmarks of the fall of the Roman Empire and the end of the Dark Ages. It wasn't to remove sin but to remove time in purgatory. Big difference. Same thing still happens, just with penitential practices instead of money, since the money part was acknowledged as an abuse and stopped. It wasn't a license to sin, and the sale of indulgences paid for St. Peter's Basilica, padded the church's coffers and led to Luther's calls for reform. Till Montaigne's father, a wealthy French noble, had his son live with a family of peasants until the age of 3 so he would learn their life conditions. He then had everyone speak Latin to him so it was his first language and taught him Greek through games and activities instead of studying books. The family was very wealthy. His great-grandfather, Ramon Felipe Acam, had made a fortune as a herring merchant. It's always the Nepo kids with the old herring money that get to live with peasants and learn Latin. And funnily enough, after all that Gascon boy raised in Latin and Greek is known for his impossibly important contribution for the promotion of the vulgar language as language of literature and philosophy, instead of Latin and Greek. If I recall correctly, you can still visit one of his houses, where he used to carve onto the various planks and woods of the ceiling phrases and ideas. I think Andrew Graham Dixon had a documentary about it. Till that in 1997 Oprah Winfrey was sued for disparaging beef after an outbreak of Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. Mad cow disease in humans in Great Britain stopped her from eating burgers. Of all the horrible shit Oprah endorsed and legitimized, this is the thing she got sued for. Lol. Fun fact, that's how Dr. Phil met Oprah, and Oprah made him a star. Isn't it Creutzfeldt-Jakob in humans and mad cow disease in, well, cows? The jury did end up ruling in her favor. Unsuccessfully sued, I would assume? For all the horrible levels of power big companies have in the world we live in, I can't see a scenario where a corporate industry can legally impose a certain diet on individual citizens. I could see maybe an individual company pursuing slander if she claimed their meat specifically was diseased, but just saying I'm not eating beef is no grounds for anything. I wonder if the process server had fun with its what's for dinner and you're being served right now. Till that life imprisonment without possibility of parole has been deemed illegal by the European Court of Human Rights. This is also the case in Canada due to a Supreme Court decision. The justification was that since the prison system is nominally meant to rehabilitate prisoners, it's unconstitutional for there to be no possible mechanism for attaining freedom. Some people will never have the possibility of parole even if the legal system pretends they do. We circumvent this in Denmark by calling it some other thing, custody. Basically you end up in a mental hospital with no clear release. Longest serving custody prisoner in Denmark is Naum Konevsky, who was arrested in 1984 and later convicted of having killed two 16-year-old boys at Femeren in Amma. He is still serving his sentence. These guys are not the EU, by the way, they are a separate court. Still, that the average time between recessions has grown from about 2 years in the late 1800s to 5 years in the early 20th century to 8 years over the last half-century. There is a concept called the Great Moderation which holds that the changes in central bank monetary policies starting in the 1970s have resulted in fewer boom-bust cycles. People do not realize how good they have it. These 1920 half of the US lived in poverty. The cycle of supply and demand is what causes this issue. I see it with commodities. There is a shortage of lumber, for example. The price goes, mills that were closed down open up again. Soon there is an oversupply and prices and minerals. Cities are the best places to avoid boom and busts. We hear it every election year. Even when the economy is the best it has been in years. Till that while Gina de Jesus was held captive for years in Ariel Castro's house, her father unknowingly interacted with Castro, even sharing beers and conversations in his garden, never realizing his daughter was imprisoned mere feet away. There is an incredible episode on how the girl survived. It's just so harrowing. What gets me is that he held these girls for 10 years yet he couldn't even last 30 days in prison where everyone was treating him with respect. What really bothers me is because one of the victims was an adult from a troubled background. Police put very little effort into looking for her, and after a few years assumed she had just left Cleveland and took her off the missing persons list. That was really hard to read. It makes me sad that there are people out there that had to go through those things. I'm usually kinda numb to all the shit that happens in the world, but this was a new low. At least she is doing better now. Good God, how that must have felt when he found out. Taxes is a subscription to be able to live in society. My dyslexic ass read this as Texas first and it made complete sense to me. This is well known and considered part of the social contract. They teach this in high school. Childhood is just the free trial. I mean, roads and bridges, and first responders are pretty great. Yes, hello, I would like to cancel my subscription. Isn't this like a repost, as I have heard this before? Gotta get on that free subscription train all them rich folk have then. To everyone saying you can't unsubscribe, isn't the biggest tax on an individual income tax, and you are making an income, then the entire system of the country is helping you out quite a bit. Basically the same with buying. You stop making an income, and stop buying things. You don't have to pay tax. We live in a society, except you can pick and choose subscriptions and what tiers. With taxes you are told how much and told if you don't like it you are evil. The teacher asked the class to use the word fascinate in a sentence. The next day, Johnny asked to use the bathroom, so the teacher asked him to spell urinate and use it in a sentence. He spelled it perfectly, and then said, urinate. If you had bigger tits, you'd be a 10. Oh man, why did you have to add that last sentence? Ruined everything. You ruined the joke with the last sentence. Little Johnny at it again. Reddit sat down and cried. I like how Little Johnny appears on this subreddit from time to time. He's always a trip. Teacher asked who could use the word contagious in a sentence. Johnny said, yesterday as we were driving to school we saw the neighbor painting his fence. My dad laughed and said, with such a small brush it will take the contagious. Number 73. Ha ha ha. My Aunt Carolyn only fascinate of her sweater buttons to fascinate my father with her tits should work. Bro, this had me howling. What grows 10x its size when stimulated? The teacher asked her 6-year-old students. Teacher may have a problem if her pupils expand 10 times. Pupils growing 10x their size underlines the child obesity problem we have. If stimulation is light, then pupils shrink when stimulated. Aren't the pupils the students? Pupils only dilate about 2x its constricted size. A fully dilated pupil is typically in the 4 to 8 millimeters in size, while a constricted pupil is in the 2 to 4 millimeters range. This joke is actually one small part of a very long joke. This our joke sub. Its asshole grows 10x its size when they don't like your joke. It's a tip for Reddit: put extra spaces after a sentence, then hit return, to force the next sentence to a new line. Or, hit return twice and it will give you a blank line. Better formatting would make this much easier to read. What show failed because someone left the show? 2.5 Men. I know Charlie didn't leave, but it was never the same. That 70s show replacing Eric with Randy was truly awful. Walking Dead ain't Walking Dead without Rick Grimes. News radio after Phil Hartman was killed. I have a feeling we're about to find out with The Witcher. Misfits when the main cast started to leave. It just went downhill so fast. 8 Rules for Dating My Daughter. But John Ritter passed away, so a little different. The X-Files after Mulder left. Scrubs without JD. House of Cards, when Spacey left. A shit person but an amazing actor, really unfortunate. Top Gear. Clarkson, May and Hammond were the show. Grey's Anatomy after most of the odd cast left. Christina, Lexi, Mark. Derek. What's one thing you accidentally found out that now everyone has to know? Sudden hearing loss. It happens overnight in one ear, can happen at any age and they don't know the cause. But if they treat it in 48 hours you have a good chance of it returning. The longer you wait the less likely you'll recover anything. I saw an article the other day that said Christmas Day emergency rooms see the largest uptick of broken dicks than any other day of the year. You all stay safe out there today. Brass doorknobs sanitize themselves. Glass doorknobs hold bacteria. Only 1 in 10 family fortunes survive to be passed to a third generation. Cows have best friends. That the Mission Impossible theme song is literally the letters MI in Morse code. I'm telling everyone with my trivia-obsessed family. How did I not know 5 decades ago about ... A million seconds is 11 days. A billion seconds is around 30 years. What's one thing you'd buy regularly if you had unlimited money? Daily massages. My mother-in-law has her own apartment so she can leave. Simple answer, all butter would be Kerrygold. Food. Fresh flowers for the house. Something that doesn't get bought usually seems a waste but always nice to business class things like cleaners and gardeners. I'd secretly pay for other people's stuff to get them out of their financial binds. They'd never know it was me who paid off their outstanding bill or bought their groceries. Traveling all around the world. Staff. Travel. Really good wine. Massages, the mortgages of friends and family, the services of a home chef, house cleaning services, donation opportunities at my favorite charities. What's the weirdest thing you've overheard while pretending to be asleep? Hey, do you think he'll notice if I take his last piece of bologna? Then me yawning pretending to wake up. 2 minutes later, go get me a bologna sandwich. My daughter explaining to our cat and non-existent dogs that they have to all be super quiet because daddy's very tired. And if they made a noise she'd lock them in her dungeon with the mean boys. I was sleepy one day in the car back home, when I heard my parents talking about their intimate life. Thing I never wanted to know. My partner dirty talking another guy on the phone. My friends having sex next to me. Roommate's first girl he brought home. Are you sure subtle Reddit icon is asleep? Roommate, yeah, trust me, I'm HIV positive. He's asleep. Girl, what? Me what? He was a real low IQ country boy who loved South Park so much he would say lines from the show that no one knew and think he was the funniest person.